They call him Seatin, the man of legends.
Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, what is up? It's Seatin here. Hello and welcome to Archeage for Beginners. Now, this guide is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a beginner's guide to Archeage. In this video, I'm going to be giving you an absolute ton of helpful tips, tricks, and hints on what you can do in the game, UI shortcuts, cool stuff that there is, and really giving you sort of the information you need to get started and easily transition into Archeage. Now, this is one of the cool things that I really love. If you press Ctrl F12, you can enter a mode where you can kind of like just fly around the space near your character, and this is really awesome for sort of doing panoramic shots and taking screenshots and stuff. So I'll just exit that quickly, and also F12 hides the UI. So that's the first thing. So now moving on to the class system. Now essentially your class is made up of 3 different skill sets. Now there are a total of 10 different skill sets, and you can chop and change these skill sets at any time to make a total of 120 different class combinations. However, not all of these combinations are good. I believe there is roughly around 20 to 30 viable combinations, and you'll be able to find these combinations by going on the forums. I'll attach a few various links, etc. in the description of this video so you can see which combinations might work the best for yourself. So you can change them at any time by speaking to a skill manager, and you simply click the one that you want to do, and then the one that you have that you want to change, and the one that you want, and then click change skill, and you can change that skill set for a very, very small fee. Now the only downside is that you do actually have to level up these skill sets in order to access the abilities in the later tiers, and usually the abilities in the later tiers are really what make some of the skill sets shine. So it's best if you're leveling just to look up a skill set that works well beforehand, so like a combination of 3 skill sets that work well beforehand, and then dedicate your leveling to using just those 3 skill sets. That way when you reach level 50 you'll have all of those skill sets maxed out, and then you can start PvPing the way you want to and being viable, instead of having to go back and farm the XP to get the spec that you actually want to, instead of using like some really easy cheesy leveling spec. So essentially you want to level in the spec that you want to use in endgame, because that's going to be the best thing for you to do. Something you will also notice shortly after starting the game is in the bottom left hand corner of your screen you'll have a resource known as labor. Now labor points are essentially used in the game to craft and gather, and they play a pretty big part in the game, because essentially Archeage at endgame there is a lot of crafting, a lot of gathering, a lot of building, so they are very, very important. Now when you initially create your character, the cap on your labor points is going to be 1,000. Now every time you spend 100 labor points, the cap increases by 10 up to a maximum of 5,000. So while you're leveling you want to ensure that you're doing various foraging and crafting activities to sort of burn your labor, and ensure that whenever you do have labor you keep on burning it. Now if you don't want to actually dedicate the time to going out and farming, let's say flowers or trees or maybe minerals, then what you can do is you can simply go to your own farm once you get that around sort of level 10 to 15 by doing the Blue Salt Brotherhood quest, and plant potatoes, and then just dig those up and keep on doing that. That'll quickly burn through your labor and also give you experience. Also, whenever you consume your labor you also get experience for doing that. It's also advised that you never try to go below about 100 labor, because there are certain activities such as maybe if you die and you need to mend at a healer, you need a bit of labor for doing that. So my advice would be try to never go below 100 labor, because there's always something that you'll need labor for, if that makes sense. On Alpha, labor currently regenerates at a rate of 10 labor every 5 minutes. It doesn't matter whether you're online or offline, it's still going to regenerate. Now, it's expected when it hits free-to-play that free-to-play players are going to regenerate labor at a rate of 5 labor every 5 minutes, whereas people who have a subscription to the game are going to regenerate labor at a rate of 10 labor every 5 minutes. So that's just something to bear in mind in regards to how your sort of labor regenerates over time. One very useful tip as well is the map system in Archeage. Now, by pressing the shortcut known as M, you can open the map. Left-clicking zooms out and right-clicking zooms into certain areas. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the map, you can show icons for pretty much everything and anything in the game. So you can show grave sites, transportation, respawn bases, public farms, and a variety of merchants. You can track infrastructure. So pretty much if you're stuck trying to find maybe a specific trainer or workbench, say like, oh, I don't know, I want to level up my cooking, I can just click on that and it will show me the location on the map of all the nearby cooking pots. Or say I want to maybe change my skills around, so I could click on the skill manager and that would show me where all the skill managers are. So there is just one north of me, which I already knew, and also one in River Spawn. So the map is extremely interactive. It can be a bit fiddly sometimes, but it's very convenient for tracking exactly what you want to track, and you can play about with the settings and also change a few things. Also, if you're trying to point something out to maybe a guildie or a friend, you can use the mark map feature. So say I want to tell my friend to go to, I don't know, Trosk River, and I'm pointing it out on the map, so I've put a blue crosshair on there by using the mark map feature, and if I want to get rid of that because it's a bit annoying, I can just right click it and delete it. When you reach the second area in Archeage, you'll likely be introduced to a faction called the Blue Salt Brotherhood. If you follow their story quest, you'll get an introduction to crafting, harvesting, farming, and trade runs. This is a really big part of the game, so as soon as you find these quests, it's really advised to follow them. It'll also give you various rewards such as your donkey mount, which can help speed up trade runs and your speed while carrying trade packages. It will also give you your first farm, which is sort of a small scarecrow patch, and also eventually following the quest it will give you a larger scarecrow patch and farm. So basically what I'm trying to say, guys, is you really want to follow these quests because they will give you a ton of cool stuff that you do need to progress through the game in terms of crafting and farming your own stuff. So as soon as you see Blue Salt Brotherhood quests pop up, follow them because you're going to need the stuff they provide. To assist you with questing, at level 15 you'll be awarded your first combat pet, which is essentially this lovely Arctic fox here. I used it all the way up to level 50, so it's pretty damn helpful. What it does is it essentially helps you in combat. It can fight and also heal itself. You don't need to do anything special for it. Essentially, as soon as you hit level 15, I believe it will either be mailed to you or you'll get a quest just to quickly turn in, and that will award you the fox. Now, there are also a variety of other combat pets in the game which are awarded via various drops, quests, and also activities and vendors. So while I haven't got a complete guide up from that, be aware that pretty much everybody can have a combat pet. You just get your first one awarded at level 15. Mounts in Archeage are extremely cool. Every mount has its unique set of abilities. So for example, the lovely elk that I have at the moment has an ability to run, which is a movement speed increase. I have a leap on it, and also a variety of arrow shots. I have a standard one, a flaming one, and also a sniping one. So pretty much all mounts in the game have something very cool about them. Now each race gets their own mount about it's around level 8 to 10. Now to actually get your first mount for your race, what you'll need to be doing is need to be following the story quests. Now story quests and normal quests differ. In your quest log, I actually don't have any at the moment, but they'll usually be at the top and they'll say story, and you can track them via sort of looking at last episodes, and they have cinematics linked to them. And also above various quest givers and completers head, they'll have a green arrow or exclamation mark instead of a yellow one. So that's how you sort of follow the story quest. So around level 8 to 10 you'll get a story quest to get your own mount. And yeah, just essentially one thing that's very important in Archeage is following the story quest, because not only do they award you like cool stuff like your first mount, They'll also award you a boatload of new eyes tiers, which you'll need later on to buy stuff such as advanced gliders and also your first ship, or maybe a slightly bigger ship. But we're going to go on to talk about ships a bit later in the guide. Now moving on to talk a bit about gliders. You'll be awarded your first glider about level sort of 13 to 14 via a quest chain. Now the glider that you get initially is very bad. There's nothing special about it. It's slow, it's clunky, and it's a pretty horrible introduction to gliders. It's called Experimental Glider, and don't let that put you off gliders, because that was just generally pretty damn horrible. But around level 25, you're going to get a very, very awesome glider awarded to you for simply reaching level 25. Now, gliders are kind of Archeage's answer to flying mounts. While you can't ascend via them, they're kind of a way of falling in style and also getting from one place to another, maybe like over a canyon, and they are absolutely essential in sort of PvP sea warfare when you jump from one person's ship to another, and they're really fun. Now, one thing to note about gliders is pretty much all of them, bar the experimental one, have a unique set of abilities, and they do various cool stuff. Like this is the fairly simple one that you get when you reach level 25, but some of the more sort of expensive and rare endgame ones. One of them has sort of an ability where you never fall, so you're constantly gliding at the same level and not going down constantly like all the other gliders. Some have various abilities like smoke bombs and stealth, so there's a ton of cool stuff with gliders when you get to end game. So yeah, just something to keep in mind, guys. You get a good glider around level 25. Don't be put off gliders by your first little crappy one. Now we're gonna have a quick chat about the various types of currency in Archeage. Now there are kind of 4 currencies aside from the standard, you know, gold that you want to keep your eye on. You have honor points, which are earned via various PvP combat quests and all that kind of fun stuff. So they're kind of like the standard PvP currency. You have vocation badges, which are earned via a variety of crafting material. Pretty much, essentially, whenever you do anything related to crafting, maybe you chop down a tree, craft an item, you're going to get some vocation badges. And they stack up pretty quickly and can be spent at most of the Blue Salt Brotherhood vendors to buy just a variety of odd stuff. Let's see if we can just go to the vendor here. So it's this one here. So there's a ton of stuff you can buy, like crest cubes, certificates, little vanity pets, and generally just a submarine design. So there's quite a few cool things you can buy from those. Now the kind of 2 more main currencies are New Eyes Tier and also Gilda Star. Now New Eyes Tier you can get from following the story quest. That's kind of the main way to get them. Basically going to any odd location. There are a variety of odd locations, usually fairly sort of scenic locations like the top of a cliff or maybe a statue or monument, and that'll award you a New Eyes Tier the first time you visit it. There is a big map up, I believe it's all in Russian at the moment, for all the locations that you can visit to get a New Eyes Tier, and you can also get New Eyes Tiers from deep sea diving and also fishing. The final currency I'd like to touch on is known as Gilda Star. Now Gilda Star can be earned via the in-game activity known as trade runs, and if you're doing something known as the Blue Salt Brotherhood questline, which is the one I spoke about earlier, you'll get around sort of level 10 to 15 when you enter the second zone for your faction. While you're doing the Blue Salt Brotherhood questline, you'll be introduced to trade runs, and they got like some nice and easy ones to get you started. But trade runs are essentially the act of transporting a trade package from one zone to another, and generally the further away the trade package is from the zone that you initially created it in, the more Gilda Star that you get, with the highest sort of turning point being the middle island, which is a very PvP intensive free-for-all zone, so it's very risk reward versus reward in that sense. So for the highest amount of Gilda Star, you have to go to this isle and hand it in, but it's not suggested doing the runs to the middle isle until you're level 50 and have quite the team of people, because else you're going to be ganked by other players and they can steal your trade package and then hand in your trade package and basically get all the Gilda Star that you would have got. So it's a pretty good idea, you know, if you want the lower stuff that you get from Gilda Star, such as your first house or workbench, to stay in the under level 30 safe zones, as I like to call them. When you reach around level 20 to 25, if you've been following the story quest, you should have around 30 nuized here. This will allow you to buy the design for your first ship, known as the Adventurous Clipper. Now, I believe there are two different types of Adventurous Clipper, and unfortunately I chose the wrong one. There is one with a cannon on the side, and there is also one with a harpoon on the front. The one with a harpoon on the front is infinitely 10 times more cool and useful, because the cannon on this thing is pretty damn useless. So basically, to buy the design for this, what you need to do is you need to go to Mirage Isle, which if you look on the portals on the mini map are sort of these blue portals, and you can access them. There are tons of portals from Mirage Isle in pretty much every zone. All you have to do is go through the portal and then go to either one of the docks and look for sort of the Adventurous Clipper design with the harpoon on the front. You can buy that, and then you need I believe it's 110 iron bars, 110 lumber, and 100 fabric. Now you have the ability to harvest all of these materials by yourself, but if for whatever reason you're feeling lazy, you can always turn to the auction house. Now, the final thing I wanted to quickly touch over is all the ways to travel throughout the world in Archeage. Now, there are kind of multitudes of different ways. There are 2 instant ways to travel between anywhere, and also several ways that you can efficiently get between places. So I'm just going to cover them all. Now, the 2 instant ways are setting your recall point. Now, basically, finding any memory tomb throughout the zone or zones, you can basically right-click it, and this is kind of like if you've played World of Warcraft, your Hearthstone to use, and it basically has a 30-minute cooldown. So that's pretty damn straightforward and useful. And the second way to instantly teleport is using your teleport scrolls. Now, using these, basically you can select any zone that you've been to, and depending on whether or not you're on the continent of that zone or the same continent, you're going to need either a Hereafter Stone or a Refined Hereafter Stone to travel to that certain location. Now, the Hereafter zones are pretty damn easy to come by. You can actually make them by harvesting harvesting rocks and also breaking down various item enchants. So that's how you get the materials to make those, and also they drop throughout the world on various mobs and you're awarded them via quests. So Hereafter Stones are fairly easy to come by, and you can also buy them usually fairly cheaply on the auction house. However, the refined ones are much rare. I don't think there's currently any way to craft them in the game, and those are the ones used to travel sort of between continents. So with that in mind, it's suggested you have your recall point somewhere that there is like a gateway between the 2 continents. That way you can port to there and use the gateway to quickly travel between the 2 continents, and then once you get to the other continent, then you can use the Hereafter zone to travel to a zone in that continent instead of burning a refined one, if that hopefully makes sense. Now, the ways to manually travel, there are kind of a few of them. So you've public transportation. So if you click on these sort of show icons, you can track transportation, and there are blimps, and there are also airships, and there are also carriages. Now, carriages basically run through various routes, and if you just go to a carriage conductor, they'll have a telescope by them where you can sort of track the carriages, and these carriages just sort of run throughout various zones. And carriages are very heavily advised to use on your first few trade runs when you're trying to get between the zones faster and you don't have a donkey, because it's going to be super tediously slow. And airships are a good way also to sort of manage trade runs going between sort of the friendly zones. So just be aware that sort of carriages and airships do exist in the game, and a really good use of them is using them while you have a trade pack on your back, because that will just make things 10 times easier for you, because you move so tediously slow while doing so. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so that is it for part 1 of the Archeage for Beginners tutorial. I hope you learn a thing or two about the game. If you do have any questions about Archeage, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and then I'll probably take all the questions and anything that I've missed out, because I'm pretty sure I've missed out a thing or two, because there is so much to cover in the game that I've pretty much guaranteed to miss a load of shit out. So this is part 1 of the guide. In part 2, I'm going to be covering all the shit that I missed out, and maybe more, so stay tuned for that because it's going to be pretty bloody exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been Seatin. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a thing or two. Thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful day.